Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Tanya Files. Now, in this episode, I'm going to be talking about religion, which is something that I talked about when I covered the John List case, which I need to get back into that because there's still a lot of stuff that I haven't told you guys about that case yet. But I just want to say that I know that religion and politics can be very sensitive and dangerous topics. So, like I say every time, if you're not religious, there isn't any judgment, but I am religious and I deserve the same respect. And if you can't do that, well, that's sad. Alright, so with that being said, I've been a Christian my entire life, but I wasn't baptized until May 2009. And, even when I was a kid, I wondered, when was I going to be baptized? And I just knew it had to happen naturally. And, my heart just said, you're just not ready yet. And I was like, okay. So anyway, I went to church a lot when I was little. And I was born with cataracts. 2 years later, I was diagnosed with glaucoma. I had my first eye surgery when I was 10 days old. And then when I was 6, I lost the vision in one of my eyes. And I'm not proud of this because I haven't told many people about this because I was afraid of being judged. But after I lost the vision in one of my eyes, I questioned if God was real. I was afraid to tell my family because my entire family is religious. And I knew that, questioning God could be frowned upon. But, whenever something was going on with my vision, we would always say, we just have to keep praying and hope for the best. And I felt guilty at that time that I was questioning if God was real or not. But then, one day when I was by myself and I was in tears because I was depressed at the time, because after I had lost the vision in one of my eyes, all of my friends at school turned against me. They teased me. They started bullying me. It was just a big mess. I didn't want to go back to school after that. I did transfer schools, but that was because the other school I transferred to had a teacher that could teach me how to read Braille, just in case if I went completely blind one day, which is my biggest fear. But unfortunately, that teacher was mentally ill. And the reason why I know that, I actually made a video about it on my other channel, the MJ Innocent podcast. I don't remember what the title of the video was, just because I kind of did a mini series of similar titles, but I'm getting ahead of myself. But anyway, one day when I was by myself and I was upset, I all of a sudden heard this very soft, gentle voice that was a male's voice. And he said, "Everything is gonna be okay. You are strong. You're gonna get through this. You're not alone." And then he said that the voice in my heart said my full name, which I'm not going to say. But he basically said, "Tanya, I am real." And I was like, I'm sorry I questioned you. And I remember maybe a couple of years later, I told my grandfather about it, who is a wonderful man, and I miss him so much. If I had to pick three people who describe him the best, I would say he was a combination of Bob Barker from The Price is Right, Tom Mesereau, who was the defense attorney for Michael Jackson, and Dick Van Dyke. My grandfather was very soft spoken, very charming, very handsome, soft spoken. Not rude at all. He never cursed or anything like that. He was a true gentleman. And I just wish there were more men like him in this world, because we need more men like that instead of the bad ones. But anyway, I told him about having that feeling in my heart. And he said, well, you know what? Only the strongest Christians have the honor of hearing God's voice in their heart. And I do believe you are one of those. And yeah, when I went to school, some of my classmates thought I took religion too seriously, but to be honest, I wish people would take certain things more seriously than they actually do. But anyway, after that, I never questioned it again. And I just hope that God forgave me for questioning it. But like I said, I'm actually glad that happened now, because I know some people will think that doesn't prove anything. Well, you don't know what that moment was like. It was one of the best moments of my life, and I feel so great that I could finally share it. Because very few people know about it. And like anyone who isn't religious, I don't expect you to all of a sudden become religious just because I shared this story. But please, just be respectful. That's all I ask. And I'm proud to be a Christian, and as far as when I was baptized, there were many times when I wanted to walk up to the front of the church and tell my preacher that I wanted to be baptized, but for some reason my legs just wouldn't move. And so I thought, okay, I guess it's just not the time. But then I was thinking, well, when is the time? And then I just thought it had to happen naturally. And so I waited as the years went by, and then on Easter in 2009, we were at church, which is one of my favorite times of the year to go to church. And for a moment, I was thinking about how my horrible ex-boyfriend was so desperate to hurt me that he even lied on the Bible, saying that, because he literally said, I swear on the Bible that I love you and that I will never leave you. But he did. And I confronted him about that. I was like, are you aware that you lied on the Bible? And he was like, yeah, I'm not proud of that. And I was like, well, it proves how desperate you were to hurt me. And he will have a lot of explaining to do later. So I'm just glad I'm not him. In multiple ways. But anyway, I just remember towards the end of that service when I was so angry at him because he was a baptized Christian. I'm like, how could he be a baptized Christian and lie on the Bible, which is the unforgivable sin, because he was that desperate to hurt me? And then I thought, I would never do something like that. So how is he baptized and I'm not? Then all of a sudden, I stood up and I started walking towards the front of the church. And I was like, this is it. This is the time. And I went up and my preacher's like, you want to be baptized? And I was like, yes. And he announced it to the entire church and everyone clapped, and it was amazing. And I was baptized a month later, in May of 2009. And I'm just so proud, and yeah, I've been through some rough times in my life, but God has been looking out for me. I always pray for him to give me strength, love, encouragement, healing, protection, and just always try to help me heal whenever I'm going through something. Sometimes it takes longer than other times, but when other situations have let me down, God never has let me down. I mean, I know I lost the vision in one of my eyes, and sometimes even to this day I wondered, why was the glaucoma so strong that it couldn't be stopped? Well, unfortunately, there isn't a cure for glaucoma. Hopefully one day there will be, but I highly doubt it would happen in my lifetime. But even if there was a cure, unfortunately there's nothing that they can do about the blind eye, because that eye shrank after all these years. And I've accepted it. It's been hard because it does interfere with a lot of things in my life, whether if it's friends, possible relationships, employment. But, it's one thing I do know is that my friends who are loyal to me will always be here for me, and I know my family will always be here for me too. And that's what matters. I just really hope one day I don't go completely blind. The vision that I have left, it has been getting worse ever since 2017. It's really just blurriness. Sometimes it'll clear up for a little bit and sometimes it doesn't. It just depends. It is getting to the point where I have to use a cane in order to get around, which, whenever people see the cane, they give me space to get by and stuff like that, which I appreciate that, And I guess if there is one positive that I can think of when it comes to my vision dealing with blurriness, is that if anyone ever gave me like strange looks or something, at least I wouldn't be able to see it. So I do consider that a positive. And I also just want to make it very clear that my glaucoma doctor, he's been checking my vision. He checks it every year. Except I will admit though, This year was the first time I've seen him since 2021, so he wasn't too happy about that. But there were just some things in my personal life that got in the way of it. But I am happy to report that when I did see him in April, he said that the glaucoma is still under control, which is good. The blurriness is because of the cornea, not the glaucoma, thankfully. He is thinking about doing a cornea transplant, but I'm very skeptical about it because there are 3 possibilities of outcomes that could come from it, and they're very terrifying. He said it could either help my vision improve, not get rid of the glaucoma, of course, but it could clear it up a little bit. It wouldn't change anything at all. Or my eye could reject the cornea and my vision could get worse. And I basically see 2 negatives out of a 3 possible outcome situation. So I told him that I really don't want to take that risk. Because when you only have vision in one eye left, you're very worried if you do try something like that and it ends up not turning out well. And I don't want to go through that again. Now, if it was the glaucoma causing the blurriness, then I wouldn't have a choice. They would have to do some kind of a surgery. But he is recommending that I get a second opinion. I'm not very open-minded to it right now, because for the reason I just said. If I still had vision in both of my eyes, then I would be more open to the possibility. But when you're a little girl and you've been through that kind of pain before, and just knowing that surgery could possibly make your vision worse for the rest of your life, when it's already interfered with my life enough, it's too scary to even consider, at least right now. So that's basically what I have to say about this. But yeah, I'm just thankful that I have a strong family. I have great friends, and yeah. And to anyone who either insults my disability or treats me like crap, they're not going to be in my life anymore. Because life is too short to deal with terrible people like them.